This is Minneapolis, the Cherry over at the Walker Art Center, the IDS Center, First Bank, AT&T, the Basilica. Then if we move across, this is St. Paul. There's the cathedral and the Capitol, downtown area, and the river is coming right through in here. In the lobby of the Federal Reserve Bank in Minneapolis is their new building, and I'm Alvin Maroney, and I was commissioned by the Federal Reserve Bank to build this sculpture for the wall. And this wall is about 396 square feet, and on that wall we've created these ceramic blocks, of which there are 280 that comprise a kind of a map of the Federal Reserve Bank. This is a ceramic sculpture built with Minnesota white stoneware, all fired and glazed. Approximate weight is about 6,000 pounds. It was built in 6 months by a team of 7 different artists in my studio, which is literally across the river. This piece is called This River, This Place, and it's specifically about this location, which is Hennepin and First, and the bank's new home. But also about the way that this location relates to the territories and the provinces that the bank serves, which are specifically the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, northwestern Wisconsin, all of Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, and all of Montana. All of those regions are disparate in their economies and what they do. Some are foresting, some are mining, some are agriculture, but they're all tied together in an economic community, which is the 9th Federal Reserve District. Federal Reserve Districts, of which there are 12, are all separate, and that they do serve that sort of provincial kind of idea. That there, for instance, there's one that serves Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana. San Francisco serves the West Coast. St. Louis serves the central Midwestern core. We're the northern tier states. We have a different economy and a different history and a different reason for being tied together. But the interesting thing in the notion of this river, this place, is the way that Minneapolis and the Minneapolis, this specific location, is where all of these goods and services and ideas funnel into as they address the wider world. So that we as individuals are tied together in this economy that addresses the larger international economy and an economy of history. So the research on a piece like this is created using a variety of different sources. We used, some of them are Landsat photos and Geosat and things like that, where we can go into computer programs and pick up specific areas, find out what their road systems, water systems, and rail systems are. Then other kinds of research are pictorial research. What does a town or an area look like? What does a beet field look like? What kind of tractors do they use in southern Minnesota as opposed to the kind of tractors that are used up in the far northern plains of Montana and those areas where they have different kinds of agricultural needs. So we combine those kinds of research with also stories, so that we look at the history of Italian-American mining families in the Upper Peninsula, or we talk about Irish immigrants who came to Butte to mine the copper mines in Anaconda, to take the copper and gold out of those hills, and what that kind of ethnocentric history might be. We talk about Jewish immigrants in Minneapolis coming in and being involved in the fur trade. So we start to put all those things together, and we get all this information pulled together, and we throw it all away, and then we create a completely new work of art that's based, instead of on the concrete, literal information, it's based more on a sense of what the feeling, the color, and the texture of those histories are, and that's what makes, what gives the soul to the piece. The first person on the project was Paige Wingard, but then she got pregnant, and when you're pregnant you can't work ceramics, so she was immediately gone.
Hazardous.
Yeah, right. And then the next one was Nick Robleski, and these are all people who've been interns or students of mine at different times. And Nick Robleski is just had finished his education, got his BFA, and was waiting to start an internship in New Mexico, and just flew in and ended up working on the project. And he and Glenn Hansen, who's over here right now, working on identifying what goes up on the scaffold next. But they rolled out the slabs, and when I say there's 6,000 pounds clay now, is 12,000 pounds wet. So they would push 600 to 1,000 pounds of clay per day. And a team of basically 3 of us in the studio every day. Then we went into a second phase where that team kind of left, and then Daniel Harris, who's working upstairs right now on the scaffold doing the installation, came in. We also, Paula Peterson came in, and Joan Williams came in. That team of three spent intense amount of time in the detailing and the coloration of the piece. So that what we do is we come up to a block into a specific area, and I'd say, okay, this is Bemidji. And then I'd take it and I'd sketch it in, and I'd give them a parameter. I'd say, okay, this has 25 houses, and it has to have 100 trees, and Paul Bunyan goes over here. Leave Paul Bunyan for later. And what they do is they'd start to block it in and detail it in. I'd go in and finish out the carving. Then we'd start to do the color, then I'd go in and correct the color. So we went through this process, but all of this happened over the course of 6 months. So we would work back to back, 18-hour days, 7 days a week, of which we did that straight for 4 months. Daniel would sleep upstairs next to the big kiln. I'd sleep downstairs with the little kiln because we have to babysit the kilns at night. And that was the only way to do this job.